Alright, welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. Today is the weekly Roundup and you are on Fretboard Refugee. My name is Bill. This is Monday the 6th of September. I did not do a Theory Thursday last week, and just a heads up, this week is going to be rather irregular as well. I've just started a new job. I am on a training schedule that is not going to be my regular schedule, and I am working out how that's going to work around doing all this. So we may or may not have a Tuning Tuesday tomorrow, but when we do have a Tuning Tuesday, we are going to cover more about OpenG. There is one very important ancestor / application of OpenG tuning that I did not cover last Tuesday, and that is the banjo. The banjo, the 5-string banjo, that is, the banjo that's employed in bluegrass and old-time music, not so much the tenor banjo that's employed in like Dixieland jazz, but the 5-string banjo is tuned by default in OpenG. So banjo has 5 strings, so forget about this D string. You have your short string, your drone string, that's much higher in a high G, and then much like the guitar, in OpenG we go D, G, B, D. So banjo is an OpenG instrument. We're going to explore a little bit about how the banjo is actually played. We're going to talk about rolls and finger picking and how those things apply to OpenG, and how you can see the DNA of that in a lot of American primitive guitar, the John Fahey music, stuff like that. As for Theory Thursday, I'm not sure what we're going to do just yet. I did promise you a show on slide, the mechanics and technique of slide. We will be doing that. I'm also working up an idea on Delta blues, the basics of Delta blues, what makes it Delta blues. Sometimes it is played with the slides, there'll be some overlap there, but not always. We're going to talk a little bit about the distinctives of that kind of music. Tunes I am working on this week, along with the normal repertoire. We've still got Spike Driver blues in there. We've still got Since I Laid My Burdens Down, which is that Mississippi John Hurt tune in the key of C that I think is kind of going to be my gateway into the key of C, and by extension ragtime music. Because ragtime music is almost always in the key of C, which means you're dealing with C, F, G chords in that general family, chords in the key of C. I have been working, I think I told you last week, on what I played at the beginning of the show here, which was a very slow playthrough of a very simple arrangement of CC Rider, a Mississippi John Hurt tune in A. So it's predicated on this long A chord here into a D. Oops. First few measures are kind of like this. They go back and forth between the A and this kind of D. And then we kind of have this kind of implied G7, and then we find ourselves doing this G passage here that you'll recognize from what's it called? Shake That Thing. This thing here. And then it goes into a kind of D figure here where we're here, then it jumps down into kind of D minor, which is different. Because of that first string, it kind of bounces off the G7, and then it circles back around through A. I've also been working on a tune called Mojo Hand, which was Lightning Hopkins' tune. And this one, at least the way I've learned it, which is a tutorial by the Play Country Blues guy, he plays with a thumb pick to get that kind of rhythmic articulation and the shuffle riff that kind of defines the song. So this is your very basic shuffle in E. Oh, I forgot to mention, CC Rider is in A. I told you what the chords were, but it's kind of a gateway into the blues in A, which is something that will open up my horizons a little bit. I've played a lot of stuff in G, and I haven't really played any fingerstyle stuff in A yet. But this is in E, which Slow as Lightning is in E too. So it's kind of predicated on the same shuffle riff that you'd play with a pick on an electric guitar, this kind of thing. And then, B7 as you'd expect. A7, and this is kind of something I've really been struggling with. This thing where you're playing kind of upward strokes on the bottom two strings to go with your bass string. We'll just do it in B7 for a second here. Now the way this generally works is you're picking your bass note, in this case, which is going to be your B on the A string, 2nd fret here. And then you're kind of pulling up on these bottom 3 strings, hopefully in unison, which is really hard for me to get clean, but I'm working on it. So, and then you have the bass and those 3 strings go together, then the strings again on the offbeat. And this song also makes use of a turnaround that I haven't really learned yet, but it is a cool shuffly, dancey song that I am really enjoying trying to get under my fingers. So this is going to be an abbreviated episode, kind of. I am going, pretty much just got home from work, and after this I'm going to be headed to my Greek class, so been a busy day. I'm not going to go too much into the stuff I've been working on or an educational theory or anything like that, but I do want to share one thing I've been working on that's been very valuable to my practice. I've kind of talked about the notion of tearing a tune down. All right, this idea that like if we're going to work on CC Rider, for instance, we would get into our A shape here and we would practice just the bass line. And then maybe once we have the bass line down, we would come back and practice sort of just the melody. So that might be, in terms of this song, that would be like this. It's your first melody note, and then you're kind of... So my point is, you practice the bass line, you practice the melody, you sort of start putting them back together. You kind of tear the song apart into horizontal parts and then put them together. This is a very common approach in the fingerstyle blues because fingerstyle blues is very different from, and sometimes too self-consciously different from, folk fingerpicking. Now, folk fingerpicking, usually it's going to be based on an arpeggio. So if we're in, let's say, E minor, it would look like this kind of thing. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, and so on, where it's a regular repetition of the same things on the same chord. Now, fingerstyle blues, there's usually a melody and a bass going on. So it's generally not practiced that way, but I was checking out some material by, what's his name? The Reverend Robert Jones, who is a teacher and an historian of blues. He's got some good material on True Fire. He's got some good material on YouTube. And he was talking about what he calls the Piedmont roll. He was saying that for him, the way to develop that thumb and finger independence was actually to practice a pattern. And to practice a pattern that's very simple and very repetitive, and then kind of add in the chords and then speed it up, slow it down, and to not worry about where these things are falling rhythmically. So let's say we're fingering an E major chord here. So the way he would go about practicing this is you would start just by even rhythmic repetition of the second string, which in this case is going to be open, with the index finger, and the fourth finger, or I'm sorry, the fourth string with the thumb. So this is step one of the Piedmont roll. Not really a roll yet, but there's a couple things you can do with this. You can practice it like this, where you don't care whether you're on the 1 beat, the 2 beat, or the 3 beat, you're just going back and forth. You can practice it as quarter notes, you can practice it as eighth notes, whatever works. And then once you're comfortable with this, you slow down again, and then you add the first string, and you're not going back and forth like, you're not going to the bass note every time, you're just going in sequence. So 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, and so on until you have it down. You can go faster and faster, and you'll notice it actually starts functioning as a roll now, because if you're counting in 4/4 time, then it's not going to land on the same beat every time. So now I'm counting the beats, not the strings, so don't let that confuse you. 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it ends up being off, and it only goes with the beat every, I guess it would be every 4 measures. But once you've mastered that, obviously we're not going to master this within this lifetime, but once you're comfortable with that, this 3 count version, and once that's smooth and it's not 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but it's just boom, 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 what you do is you add another finger, well, not another finger, another string with the thumb. So the 4 count version of the Piedmont roll, and kind of the final form of the Piedmont roll, is going to be second string, fourth string, first string, and then your other bass string, which in the case of E is going to be the 6th string. So it looks like this. And I can't really speak yet, I've been practicing this for a week, about how well this is going to translate into thumb independence, but I can tell you that it has drastically improved my awareness of where my hand is. This is generally performed with an anchor, with the pinky finger as an anchor. Now, there's different schools of thought about which fingers to use for finger picking. There are players who like to use all 3 fingers and have them assigned to strings, so that would be middle, thumb, ring, middle, thumb, ring, or, middle, thumb, ring, thumb. There's also pickers who like to use just these 2 fingers. So that would be like index, thumb, middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb. And then when you add There's also something to be said for the one finger approach. This is what Reverend Robert Jones actually does. He just plays with his index finger for the most part. So thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, like that. Now the other wrinkle in this is, let's say we want to do an A minor chord. Well, let's just make it an A7, keep it bluesy. E string is no longer our bass here. So our bass strings right now 4 and 5. So now it would look like 2, 4, 1, 5, 2, 4, 1, 5, 2, 4, 1, 5, and so on. So as you get comfortable with this, you can speed it up. So let's say we want to do an A minor. So let's say we want to switch to a C. We can practice doing that on the fly, or at first we can just give ourselves a 4 count and then go to it. And then you can practice changing between, let's say, your A minor and something that'll actually require you to change to that 6th string, like an E major. I am not fast at that yet, but I'll get there. It has definitely improved my awareness of where I am in space. The other thing I've been thinking a lot about, thanks to that thumb pick experiment, is the use of thumb picks and finger picks. And another thing this exercise is great for is practicing something like using a thumb pick, practicing something like using finger picks, because this changes the relationship spatially between the finger and the string. This changes the way you hold your hand to get the thumb, right? So if we go back and do the same thing with thumb picks and finger picks, it's going to be a little harder. So that's very hard for me right now, but it's something I am working towards. And this is a good, sterile, repetitive thing that you can throw in a twist like that into and start working on something like picking with a different surface. So that's something to consider. Some things I want to cover in the future that will probably be their own little beginner at the crossroads episodes. I want to talk about the tools of finger picking, like how to use your fingers, the difference between this kind of downward flick motion that you sometimes see in Delta blues and this upwards pick motion, more of a frailing claw hammer kind of thing you do with the nails. Sometimes you'll see that in Delta blues, you definitely see that in banjo. I do want to talk about the slide. I want to talk about what makes Delta blues Delta blues. I might do an episode just on the Piedmont roll and how that works. I don't know what else is coming up. We'll see. Like I said, this is a time of transition for me. I'm just going to try to stay as consistent as I can. My priority is going to be this show, whatever blues content I can come up with, and alternate tuning Tuesday. Theory Thursday, I will do as stuff comes up that's interesting. I don't want to just go through different keys for no reason and tell you shit you already know. Featured instrument this week is going to be this guy right here, which I've been enjoying lately. I told you a little bit where this came from already, but this was my father's guitar, although he didn't stick with it. It was a left-handed guitar that I kind of flipped around. What I did is I bought a new bone nut here, flip the strings around. At some point I'm going to have somebody fill this in and carve out a different slot for the bridge piece here, because it's technically not intoning perfectly, but it's surprisingly stable. I can't really complain. The sounds that come out of the cedar top are downright beautiful. Not necessarily bluesy, but for a kind of more pretty arpeggiated finger picking, which I'm not very good at. Sounds lovely. Chords sound absolutely full and resonant and beautiful on this bad boy. Let's do a bluegrass style G here. This has a fairly short scale, so it's got some nice response to it. It handles like hammer-ons beautifully. It's very easy with a little force to get a lot of sound out of it. I would say that this cedar might be, in terms of just prettiness, might be my favorite tone wood right now. I'll always be a sucker for mahogany and for that warm, fundamental, bluesy thump. But there is something transcendently beautiful about this that I can't get over. Piece of gear for the month, or for the week rather. I've been using these national brand pseudo tortoise shell thumb picks. This one is a large, and the thumb pick is something I'm still getting used to. There's different versions of thumb picks out there. There's one like this one right here, which I believe is Dunlop. You'll notice this has a much longer blade on it, which makes it easier to get a strum of more than one string at once, but maybe harder to just articulate one string. There's another one. I may or may not have one within arm's reach. I don't. There's one that has almost a full-size conventional pick sticking out there, which is very different, much more amenable to strumming. Shout out of the week is going to be the Reverend Robert Jones for the Piedmont roll. That's all I got for today's episode. I look forward to coming to you again soon with some more open G content and some more blues content and some slide content. So thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day.